Well, we're gonna get to Ask Yo Aunteas. So, what time is it?
Ask your
Aunties. All right, you gentlemen are the perfect ones to answer this because I think there's a little link between Boston and this question. It says, since the pandemic, my alma mater, a pretty well-known technical engineering school, has been hosting a variety of events and webinars online and opening them up to alumni. They've been hosting a forum for equity in engineering session pretty much monthly, focused mostly on diversity from a POC perspective. Today, they hosted a forum with 3 other institutions, an Ivy League private university, a large state public university, and a small private college of engineering, for sharing of their practices in this area. As the moderator introduced the panelists representing each school, I couldn't help but notice that they consisted of 2 older white dudes and a somewhat younger white lady. After a short share from each, the balance of the forum was moderated Q&A session. The lack of racial diversity in the panel, except for the moderator who was a younger black woman, did not go unnoticed by the audience, and to the moderator's credit, it was the first question from the feed that she asked. All 3 gave the standard response to the effect that supporting diversity requires the participation of everyone. While I fully agree diversity and inclusion are team sports, I'm curious about the Aunties' point of view on having the racial diversity programs from all 3 institutions of higher learning not be run by POCs. Thanks.
First, that was a long ass question.
It was a long question.
Long ass Auntie. But we got there.
What are you thinking, Marvin?
It's the
I'm just trying to get it.
Can I help Marvin
it's
out?
The wrinkles and the eyebrows right there.
Can I help? Can I help Marvin out?
Go ahead.
So my brother Marvin, shouts outs to _LCSW. He has a pretty poppin' IG.
Okay.
A few days ago, he said a few DEI trainings plus a few black and racially ambiguous faces in leadership does not equal your organization being anti-racist.
So don't. Let's say that again. Hold on. Let's rewind. Say that again, please.
Oh, you want me to say it? I'll say it again.
Absolutely.
A few DEI trainings plus a few black and racially ambiguous faces in leadership does not equal your organization being anti-racist. My question to y'all too is like, I went to HBCU. Why couldn't y'all go to Morehouse with that? Why couldn't y'all go to Howard? Why couldn't y'all go to FAMU and get some of the people from down there to get on your Zooms? Like, you don't got to use pay for flights and food. You can just maybe pay a consulting person from one of these HBCUs that's a black person to talk to y'all and tell y'all the real. But unless you're willing to do the work, you're not going to do it. And to paraphrase, I think it's Saad Shakur. If I'm correct, please tell me if I'm wrong, Jesse. The oppressor is not going to give you the tools to overthrow them.
All right.
Simple as that.
Yeah.
So that's why, my boy Jesse was saying, like, we got to build our own platforms. And also, that sounds about white. They're going to keep doing what they're doing. There's no magical equation to, like, this white. Like, I think one of y'all said we were just in New Orleans. White people will turn on you like spoiled milk. So, like, what the fuck have they done in 400 for African Americans? 402 years that really means anything? Y'all were mentioning on the last podcast, did African Americans get reparations? No. Do we get any type of tax credits, or do we get free therapy? Do we get our 40 acres and a mule? So, I mean, I hear the question, but also use your black and brown community, because these white people will be sheep's and wolf clothing.
Yeah.
I think
they're not to be trusted.
I think it's a joke to have racial diversity programs from 3 institutions and have all old.
2 old dudes and a young white lady.
Like, how you so smart that you're dumb?
You know they don't.
They knew better.
That happened.
Yeah,
that happened.
But they knew better. You like,
Yeah, they had the white lady though. That's diversity.
That's the diversity.
That's the diversity.
No, they had the black moderator. That's
the moderator.
Yeah,
right.
My bad.
Because black folks love a microphone, right?
It's a wolf. My bad. It's something I said. It's a wolf. It's actually a wolf in sheep's clothing. Whatever I say.
Yeah.
But also, I've met with white people. I used to work in a hospital. When black people are ashy, they don't know the medical terminology. We have to tell them, yo, put lotion on that dude. So to your point, being so smart, they dumb. They don't even know to put lotion on black people.
Yeah.
In the fucking emergency department. I'm done.
Yeah.
But I think, similar to what I post, I'd be posting shit so much I forgot I'd be posting shit. But these institutions, companies, organizations, they try to put one black person or one, racially ambiguous person in a position of power, and they're just like, see, we're anti-racist, right? And I compare it to like Obama, right? Obama's the president. Oh, and that's just like saying, see, no more racism in America anymore, right?
Yeah.
Fucking foolish.
Yeah.
Fucking foolish. There has to be so many more things done with, really they have to break down and throw away whatever the fuck curriculum they have, whatever system they have, and build it back up with Black and brown and queer people building it back up together. Because these white institutions made for and by white people are going to remain for and by white people.
I mean, we just saw with Dr. Cornell West. We just saw with what's my black sister at
Nicole Hannah-Jones.
Yes. So it's just like part of me, like when I saw the question come through, I was just like, duh. Like we've seen it so many times that like it's always potentially the white people that are maybe more in shock about it. And if you're more in shock about it, then you should do some more shit about it. So it's just like,
that's because they think they understand one black folks, so they understand all black folks. So for they don't need to do the homework. And they also think because they understand black folks, that means everyone that look like them also understand black folks too.
They're colorblind though. They're colorblind.
Absolutely.
I don't see color. I don't see color.
Yeah.
I can tell by that outfit you got on. I'm just saying.
Look, and white people get ashy too. I just want to throw that out there too. And I love cracking up.
Weird. Isn't it weird to see?
And it still show up on you, bitch.
Isn't it weird to see an ashy white person? That shit was weird. Weird as hell to me. Yeah.
Like, that's not ashy. That's the
because they be using that suave. You know that suave don't work.
That shit don't do nothing.
But it's funny. Like, maybe about when did I post this? July 21st. Someone, Dr. Monica Cox, had tweeted out. She said, "Instead of showing me your diversity statement, show me your hiring data, your discrimination claim stats, your salary tables, your retention numbers, your diversity policies, and your leaders' public actions against racism and performative allyship." And that's what a lot of these programs and moderations and things like that have turned into. It's like you almost have to do it so at least maybe kind of publicly you don't appear racist, but then you pulled it back that onion layers and it's just like you ain't did shit. Like literally you got two white dudes and a white lady. Like you couldn't find nobody that was of color. That's what you're telling me. Then that's also telling me then there ain't no one in your network. That, like you couldn't just call last second, but like, hey yo, Jarrell, I got this thing going on. Can you hop in right quick? Like, that's what that's telling me. It's like, it's not even like these two people and the young lady. It's like, that means you couldn't call nobody in your network, in your bubble to show up, to even make it somewhat appear that you care about Black and brown people. That's wild to me.
And white women are the biggest recipients of affirmative action. Let it marinate.
Yeah.
and he muted the... and he said, mute. Drop the mic.
I have a couple of thoughts. I work in diversity and inclusion as part of my day job, and I agree with a lot of what's said. I think one, it was problematic on the bookers just not to do their research before they confirmed the attendees, because I think if the intention is to have representation, then that was a responsibility of the person that's planning the event. You can't control who a person hires. So that's my other point. Diversity and inclusion initiatives at institutions, and granted, there are a lot of institutions where it's bogus and it's performative, et cetera. But we also, as people of color, have been asking white people in particular is to be allies. So what do we want? You know, like if you want for white people to step in and do the work, some of these motherfuckers are doing the work. You know, they're doing the work. Now, I'm not saying all of them are, but what I am saying is like, let's not automatically discount, you know, that by the race of an individual, that it completely offshoots the intention of that particular institution to really create a space. And quite frankly, they may have lacked in the hiring process of finding the candidates or whatever. And it's not to give excuses. I'm just saying, let's just make sure that we're taking a balanced look at this thing. I've worked with a lot of white allies, and I'm saying like white, straight, you know, like as vanilla as they come, allies who are smart,
Them saltines.
who are smart, who are sympathetic to underserved communities and are staunch advocates and allies to do everything they can to be able to create a better space for all people. And I met a whole bunch of other white people that ain't shit. You know, so, you know, all I'm saying is let's just make sure that before we throw out a blanket statement of devaluing what these people had to contribute to the conversation. I get the optics of it, and that is a valid conversation, but what's the content that they're sharing in the context of this environment? Was that value added?
I think the opposite is also the facts, though. Like, that's the thing. Like, the opposite of the reality, which is they didn't do what they needed to do at the end of the day.
If the title is formed for equity, that's the only part
exactly,
that
because
I'm not disputing that.
Right, because I don't get me. I know plenty of white people who are for the cause, who will be in the front lines at every rally and everything. But like we say on the podcast all the time, representation matters. Like it means different hearing you, Duan, say something than hearing Joe Smith over there say something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
you mean Cody?
Or Cody.
Not Joe
Cody.
Smith.
I mean, Joe Smith. I mean, Joe Smith is white as far as I'm concerned. I don't know a lot of every Joe I know is white, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But
wasn't there a basketball player for Atlanta Hawks?
Joe Smith?
Wasn't it Joe Smith?
I don't know. All right,
Joe Johnson. Joe Johnson.
We will go with Cody. Okay, we will go with Cody. But the point still remains. The point still remains, though. Like, the message is received completely different hearing from someone who represents someone like you. It does not hit the same coming from someone who is just a messenger, or someone who found something through a textbook, or heard from someone else, or heard from a person who looked like you. This is how it's supposed to be. It's just not the same. And it's just not the same.
Dawn, I hear what you're saying around allyship, but I think so the type of white people that melanated social work fucks with, like, these are the white people that know that they don't belong in that space, that they should be taking a step back, and they should be referring out to a person of color that is better suited for that space, right?
That's the difference.
I 100% agree, and I'm not disputing that at all. As I said, you know, I'm agreeing 100% with everything that you guys are saying. You know, from an optics perspective, you know, this is a problem of the booker, because a lot of times, if I'm being engaged for a speaking engagement, oftentimes I don't know until the day of whether or not, you know, who's going to be there. And sometimes I might not even know until I show up, you know? So all I'm saying is, I'm not trying to discount these points. I'm saying, yes, and let's also have a balanced conversation and not automatically discount the value that individuals bring to a conversation just because they don't represent the same melanin texture that we offer. That's all.
Yeah. And I think he kind of nailed it too, though. He said all three gave the standard response. So I obviously this is an anonymous question, but I know who sent this question in. And they are not a melanated person. So for them to identify that it was a standard response, to me, is that person saying, it was problematic. And
Yeah.
and I agree. Like, yes, sometimes you don't know. You like, oh yeah, I'll sign up for equity for the cause for engineering. Oh, that's right up my wheelhouse. Yay! And you show up, you're like, oh shit. I think in that moment though, old man and young lady should have been like, that should have been from jump. That hold on,
Yep.
we signed up for this. I didn't know there wasn't going to be representation on this panel. We need to lift this. It shouldn't have been the moderator that brought this up. So if you're a true ally and what I like to say, an accomplice, you would have nipped that shit in the butt from the get-go.
Yeah.
We'd be like, hold on, let me get somebody on Zoom right quick. I got someone in my network that I can at least zoom in real quick that might have an opinion. There's ways around it, but I just think all three given the standard response is already identifying that it was problematic being on these things. And it sounds, especially if it's a monthly thing, and it seems like monthly, like you couldn't get like nobody. So and that's the part, especially in
I put blame on the booker. You don't know who you was talking to. You know who you was reaching out to. When you looked at their LinkedIn profile, and you prioritize, oh yeah, I want to have somebody from an Ivy League school coming in here and blah 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 blah, and being complete, like in my mind, like that's who like I want to know who booked.
I want all
is Rachel Dolezal over there? Is that what her new job is? Oh no. Let's have the real conversation, because when you bring people in front of other people, it's your responsibility to make sure that you're bringing the right person.
And I think
yes, there is. Oh, sorry. Yes, there is. Yes, there is a component of like personal responsibility. Like if I show up and I look around, I'm like, oh damn, like I'm white and everybody up here is white. We talking about black stuff. I'm like, I might want to, have a better
several
statement.
And I work in DEI too, at a institution of higher learning. I'll say that. And there's a lot of stuff where I don't sign off, put my name on shit that I can't back up if I don't know what their work is. Because I know what it is. People will show up online, on platforms, on social media, on podcasts, and project themselves one way, but behind the scenes, they're full of shit. So to the point, but also in regards to allies, is there really such thing as an ally? In Reclaiming Our Space by fellow social worker Feminisha Jones on page 43, she says, since there is no mutual benefit for oppressors and the privileged people, when the oppressed are liberated, there can be no such thing as an alliance, thus no allies. And this is her saying, in my longest Twitter thread ever, I offer that people use the term ally as a catch-all term and performative act to assure others that they are not bad people. It was received well for the most part, but with many people, mostly white, saying that the thread helped them think differently about allyship. So like, it can be the booker, with all respect, but like if it's just the booker, then there's a bigger cause to the overall situation, right? That's just a minor cut to a deeper wound of these institutions. But again, we can't put our trust in these institutions. We got to build our institutions. And Marcus Garvey said, basically paraphrasing, let's build up our own independence and do our own shit. But that's just me. That's Melanie.
Jesse, what you have to say? Jesse has something to say. Let's get Jesse to say. He been biting.
I mean, reading this is just so quintessential. It just feels like Boston. Like this is just reminding me so much of like our graduate school experience. Yeah, this is the Northeast for sure. But like this concept of diversity requires participation of everyone. I think that's real. Everyone needs to participate, but everyone has a role to play. It doesn't mean that like white people need to be the ones that are the speaking figures. They have a role to play, and part of that is they just need to listen and shut the fuck up. And I think language is important. Like the concept of diversity is like, okay, what are we achieving? We have lots of different people here. Is that enough? Like equity. Okay, we provide differential resources to different people based on their experience. But does that do anything to shift the way that power is held in that space? Just because we give some Black people a scholarship, does that make their college experience any easier? Does that make white supremacy in that institution go away? So what we're really speaking to, what we want and we should name what we want. We want justice and liberation. We want a dismantling of white supremacy. So it's like, where is the department for that? Because the Department of DEI is gonna operate at best as a symbolic gesture. And we had a lot of conversations with our institution, Boston College, and folks wanting to bring us in and being like, yo, can you consult? Like, what can we do to make this space more comfortable for Black folks? And when it came down to doing things that are very tangible, okay, reduce the cost of tuition, allow Black people to go to college for free. That's very tangible. Like, how much are you paying this DEI director to do this bullshit? Just let some folks go to school for free. That's just one easy thing. And it's like, when it comes down to actually doing things that address the long history of racism in this nation, they don't want to do that. You know?
Oh, man, but hey, community, thank you for sending this question. Continue to send your Ask Yo Aunteas questions to AYA@minoritetyreport.com, or DM us or text us, or you see us in the street. Let us know. And by the way, I did look up, Joe Smith was a basketball player. I had to look, it was going to bother me. He played from 95 to 2011.
And was he Black?
So Cody, yeah. Blackity
okay,
black,
cool.
black.
So Cody.
So Cody it is.
Cody it is.